My name is Gina Bremer. I am the CEO and founder of LiftedViz, a data visualization design studio in Bellingham, Washington. But I have been doing data visualization for about 10 years, starting mostly in Seattle as an individual contributor in data analytics and business intelligence roles, before moving into consulting and really looking at the process and project management of data visualization and how we actually approach data visualization problems. So when it comes to the development process, when it comes to rooting ourselves in our data viz development mindset, this is really where storytelling takes root. And we really want to start our entire process when it comes to building, whether it's a single visualization or it's an entire report, a huge PDF, interactive dashboard, whatever we're looking at, we want to understand first what the story we want to tell is and have that really be our guiding principles for the entire rest of the process, including what development skills we really need to be able to put it together. So in our LV5D, we break this into 5 distinct stages or phases of a development process. And again, that first stage is to define the problem that we are trying to solve with data visualization. This can be a timely adventure. It can be a very challenging adventure when it comes to getting our data into the right format, to learning the skills that we need to learn. So we want to make sure before we put in all of this time and effort that we are sure that we know who we're doing it for and why we're actually doing it. So we like to start with the questions that we need or that we feel that we need that help us guide that story. And this can vary for you, right? What you need to be able to start to craft that story for your end user. But some of the key questions that we want to start with, when we're thinking, okay, what is the story we want to tell us? Who are we telling it to, right? Who is our audience of this story? And are we creating this in a way that supports that specific audience? What questions are they interested in, right? So this can be a little bit challenging to just like go up to someone and be like, what's your business question? But it can be very helpful if we work with people to understand really what are these questions that you're trying to answer, instead of someone just saying, I need a table that says X, Y, and Z. I need this data, right? We want to know what questions you have about it and what actions that actually supports. So once you get that data, once you see that data, if it's a positive story, if it's a negative story, if it's an in the middle story and doesn't really say anything, what actual things can be done about it, right? We're putting in time and effort, which means we're spending money on this project. What is the business or the organization or ourselves or our stakeholders actually getting out of this? Another thing can be, how is that story going to be told? What is the intended use? Is someone going to be looking at this every day? Is this going to be something that someone looks at once and gets the information that they need and are going to be done with it? Is it going to be presented to a large audience, to a small audience? Understanding kind of that before we start what we're trying to do can be really impactful. From there, and this kind of helps us understand whether or not we got enough information to really understand the problem that we're trying to solve for, we go into design. So we're still not in a tool. It's still, we're not in Tableau, we're not in Data Studio, we're not in Power BI, we're not using our tool yet. We just want to be able to say, this is what we are envisioning for a solution to this problem set that we have defined with you. And so typically in our organization, we do this with pen and paper, and I highly recommend this to everyone that I know to grab a ruler or use a software that you're very comfortable with, right? Because the idea here is we don't want to be limited by our technical skills. We don't want to be limited by, I'm actually just distracted, dragging and dropping, and everything's getting very messy on the page. We just want to be able to say, okay, here is the problem. What is the solution that I'm envisioning to solve this problem? What does this dashboard look like? What does this report look like? And one of the things that this does is it helps us to validate our understanding with our audience and with our stakeholders of saying, okay, here's what we heard your questions were. Here's what we heard, how you want to actually use this, and what actions you want to support. And here's what we're envisioning, right? It might be one sketch, it might be 3 sketches with different kind of takes on this, but it gives us that ability to say, okay, yes, this is right. This doesn't help me. I don't know what this chart means. Can we do something else? They're not going to like this. They're going to very much like this. So before we actually even touch the data, except for some potential data discovery, but not for the actual dashboard build. And before we get into the tool itself, we want to have a kind of map of what we want to build that can guide what data we need to prepare and what skills we need to actually develop it. So when we go into data prep, we've got our map, right? We validated with our stakeholder, the problem that we're trying to solve for, the design that we're going to use to solve for that problem, and then we go into data prep. And the beauty here is data can be massive, especially if we're getting data out of a cloud platform that has, hundreds of columns that you can choose from of what data and what information you need. So by creating this map, we're able to really target what data do we truly need to be able to support our visualization. This can help us if the data is already collected and we just need to say, okay, here's the view, here's the spreadsheet, here's the information that I need to collect and get into one place in order to support this. But this can also help understand what data collection needs to be set up in your organization, right? You might be in an organization that says, okay, this is exactly what I want to be looking at every month or every week or every day. And then you might say, oh, we're not capturing this data yet, right? And so it can help you understand, okay, this is the data that we actually need to start capturing so that we can build the reporting that we want to. And then it's at that stage, once we've got our data ready to go, that we are ready to jump into a tool. Really what the focus is going to be on is the technical skills. Once we have that map, once we know what we want to build and we've got our data, how do we actually bring that data into a tool to actually develop that roadmap and share it with our end users? And then lastly, which we like to touch on, is delivering our dashboards. So again, we want to be storytellers. We want to start with defining what story we're trying to tell, and we want to end with truly telling that story, right? So just developing and throwing something over the fence can often make it very hard for your end users to actually adopt a data dashboard or a data report, right? It still takes work to understand and actually use this information and to get that data adoption to take those actions and to use it how we wanted them to use it. So understanding that delivery story and being able to communicate that story to your end user after your dashboard is developed is a key focus that we think help your work land with your audience and help that adoption effort.